If the housing market grows year over year, historically, it's 4.5% every year.
Yep.
That home might gain value. And again, it's all location specific, but the S&P 500, the market has historically grown 7 to 10% year over year. So if you're investing consistently, you could end up with more wealth, more liquidity, more flexibility than if you had locked yourself into that mortgage that you might have outgrown.
No Free Lunch is presented by T. Rowe Price. The information provided on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified financial and or legal professionals before making any legal or financial decisions or investments. I'm Ndamukong Suh, and welcome to No Free Lunch, where we talk to experts and athletes about how the most successful people in sports manage their money and grow their wealth. Danny, what's going on, man? How are you?
Living life, man. Living life. It's getting cold here in New York.
Man, it's rainy and cold in Portland, man. I got back from London, 65 and sunny, a little cloud here and there. I get back to 55 and rain. I am not feeling this at all.
Yeah, when I was in Portland, I came out there to record some stuff with you. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is Portland's great. This is
That was summertime. That's why. Spring and summertime, best days. Yeah. I'm normally not here, man, but man, this winter I do not miss.
No, it's crazy. But because you've been in Florida for a little bit. I forgot. That's
crazy.
I've
been in Florida, man, but we'll be all right. We'll thug it out for another month or so.
No, I got you. But today we're talking to a financial expert. We've have the pleasure to talk to Nicole Lapin. She's a 5-time New York Times bestselling author. And host of Money Rehab, and a show is similar to our tagline, helps you build and grow your wealth, which I think y'all have a good alignment, when it comes to show creation and a mission, when it comes to speaking to your audience.
Yeah, man, I'm all about financial literacy and empowerment and growing the mindset of young adults and young adults, but not only young adults, people that are 40, 50 years old that just have no clue. They just not been working on their finances. They've been working on their business and their craft and what their expertise is as a human being. And these are things that are not taught to us in our youth days, being in elementary, middle school or high school, let alone even in college from that perspective. So I am excited to talk to Nicole and learn about how she communicates with her audience.
And I think what's important, and I think you do a great job, and she does as well, is like removing that barrier of financial literacy and like the shame, taking the shame out of it. Like to your point, you've been an expert, maybe in a different part of your life and really focused, and it's okay to like not know about some of these things you weren't taught already. So I'm excited for the conversation. I know we have a lot of conversations on our show about players early in their career and some of the financial decisions they made, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. And I think our conversations today, we can speak on some of that. And maybe she gives her expertise about how some young players, whether it be NIL or rookies in the pro leagues, can go about the world with this newfound wealth, really.
Man, I'm excited about it. I think you touched on it, not only from the mistakes and the lessons that can be learned, but also the implementation side of things. And it's great to talk about it and make it less cringy and uncomfortable, and that is finances, but let's understand how we can actually implement it. So when you talk about taking examples here and there, I'd love to hear what some of her answers are on how to implement these things that she knows and the knowledge that she has in and around finances. So let's get right into it right here on No Free Lunch, boss. Nicole, welcome to the show, No Free Lunch. I appreciate your time. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm sleep training my daughter right now, so I'm not sleeping, but money never sleeps. So here we are.
How old is your daughter?
She's 10 months old now.
Yeah, you are in the thick of it. I got twin boys that are 4 that sleep training was a grind between me and my wife because I wanted to let them cry it out, which I'm sure you've learned about that method. So you will, I'm sure, enjoy and learn the difference between the tones of cries.
So many tones. My husband wanted to do the same thing. So it hurts deep in my soul, like when they cry. Was this like with your wife too?
Yes, it very much so. Any movement, any type of screech or sound, it's in the room trying to figure it out. I'm like, man, just let them figure it out. Let them cry.
You guys,
they'll figure it out
it's
one way
easy
or
for
another.
you to say.
Yes, that's why you guys are mothers and we are fathers,
That's
and
right.
we will let them figure it out. But no, let's jump into this. I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too.
And obviously, you are a rock star from the standpoint of 5-time New York Times best-selling author. That is quite an accomplishment, to say the least.
Thank you.
Congratulations, first and foremost, on that. But ultimately, I want to dive into the conversation around finances. And really, I'd like to start. What was something in your life, and more specifically, that you hit rock bottom to why you made personal finances something so serious that you wanted to take on?
Oh, wow. How many times can a person hit rock bottom in her life? Early on, it was about having debt that I couldn't get out of. And I grew up in an immigrant family. So first generation American, never talked about any of this stuff. Grew up and, was scared of debt. I later learned that there are two words for debt: a rich people word, leverage, and people that don't have money, which was credit card debt, high interest credit card debt, which was the kind that I was so embarrassed of being like an immigrant kid, always trying to use cash to pay for everything. And so when I finally got out of debt, I had to figure it out the hard way. And I promised myself I would never go back. And I didn't have a resource to show me how to get out of debt. Like, I went to Northwestern, fancy school.
Yeah.
They didn't teach me any of this stuff, any of it. It was all like economic theory, but not how to get out of debt or how to make a business plan or do taxes. And so I had to figure it out the hard way. And I came up with a system and I thought, wow, if I could do this, because I started as a poetry major in school. So like, I didn't know numbers or math or any of that. I was scared of all of it. Then anyone truly can do it. So that was one of the first fires that I found myself in financially.
It's interesting that you bring up your background of being an immigrant. I would love to learn a little bit more of where your family is from, and ultimately, like, what were those conversations? As you mentioned, there wasn't many conversations, but was there a point in time that's flipped and switched that you guys did as a family start to talk about finances? Or was it just always silent until you got of age and had your own money?
It was always silent. I had so much financial trauma. I saw my house foreclosed on when I was a kid. I actually bailed my mother out of jail using cash under the sink behind the maxi pads that I talk about in one of my books, because I had like serious financial trauma. And it came up recently when actually my home and my office burned down in the LA fires earlier this year.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. It's been quite an adventure, quite a journey. And so, but it reminded me that I've gone through financial fires before, not the literal kind. And I could do it again. But my family never, ever talked about it. And I thought, growing up, we all have some sort of financial trauma, if not so serious in your own family, in the macroeconomic sense. If you live through the dot-com bubble, if you live through the housing crash, if you see your friends spend or hoard, that affects how you're going to deal with money, your relationship with money. All of it has this subconscious imprint on us. And I needed to realize eventually that just because it was done a certain way didn't mean that's the way it had to be done. And I got to choose the language that I started to talk to myself and now my own daughter about money.
Those conversations that you've had, or lack thereof, those conversations that you had with your family, how does that impact the way you not only talk to your daughter, as you mentioned, but also the audience that you're fulfilling in the community that you've built? Yeah,
well, right now, my daughter is doing and she's doing like, that's her. She's doing kind of mama, but she does dada and mama like interchangeably. And so, but when she is ready to speak, I've thought a lot about the way that we were spoken to as kids, right? Like, have you heard money doesn't grow on trees, or we can't afford that?
Yes, for sure. Plenty of times. Both my parents, my mom's Jamaican and my dad's Cameroonian. So very much so know about money does not grow on a tree, and you got to earn something. If you want something that's a treat, for lack of better words, like you got to go work and get it yourself, or help me make some money elsewhere. So then now we have additional discretionary income to be able to spend on it. So I've definitely heard those terms.
Yeah. And then how do you think about talking to your boys about that? Because I wonder if a better way to say it is money grows where you invest it, or where you put your energy.
Yeah, no question. And there's a buddy of mine the other day, we were at a construction site with one of my boys because my other son was actually in Chicago getting a surgery done. And we went to the construction site, we were cleaning up some stuff. And my buddy was like, man, Car, you're doing a great job cleaning up. This is how you like earn money and get all the things that your dad and your mom gets you. And he was like, no, not really. We get it from somewhere else. But it's that conversation that my buddy Robert was having, as well as myself, of showing them how hard work can provide for them, and trying to instill those different traits within them. But also saying, hey, when we go to the store, just because we have the funds to go and buy something doesn't mean we're always going to go and get something. And that's something the other day we were at the mall. I went to the Apple store. I turned in my iPhone and got credit back. But just because I got credit doesn't mean I have to go spend it. And my boys wanted a hockey little device, air hockey piece. Like, do you really need it? Or do you something that you just want? And so showing those differences are some of the conversations I try to have them. But they're still 4. So they're like, no, I don't care about any of that. I still want it.
Totally. Yeah, it's all age appropriate, of course. But I even start thinking about, do I do share, spend, and save as buckets when allowance does come up? Or do I have her negotiate for her allowance and start instilling some of that negotiating skills and tactics? Because look, we don't learn it in school. If you're like, our families, you didn't learn it at home. And so when parents ask me, how do I raise financially responsible or literate kids? Because now it is incumbent on parents. I say, look in the mirror. Are you financially literate? Because they're following everything that you do. They're my God, I see it now. Like she watches me do it and she does it. It's crazy. Yep. And so any habit, the way you talk about money, the way you talk to yourself about money, if you're stressed about it, they feel it. If you put everything on a credit card, they feel it. If you are too tight with money, they feel it. So the first step to helping raise financially responsible kids is being financially responsible yourself.
So you mentioned earlier on about seeing your house foreclosed on and having to deal with that as a young adult and things of that nature. But I want to give you a scenario. And the scenario is a young rookie NFL player that after obviously taxes and agent fees, he's got $1 million and wants to live in his city that he's playing in. Let's just say the city of Miami, Florida, which is obviously a hot, nice city, great place. It's tax-free from that perspective. It's got a 4-year deal. And if this was your little brother and he asked you and said, hey, I want to buy a house, and should I buy this house or should I rent? What would be your particular advice for him?
So I think home ownership, we've been told, is the American dream. And I think it's really important for everybody to rethink about that for themselves. Maybe it is the right move, but maybe it's not. So let's run the numbers. You think that buying a home is this grown-up financial move, but renting can be just as powerful if you do it intentionally. And right now, renting is cheaper than owning in all 50 of the largest U.S. metros, probably Miami included, which, by the way, just to clarify, it's not tax-free. They tax you in other places. In the
Very
states
for
like
sure.
Florida
Let's say
and Texas.
state of Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then, sometimes there's higher sales tax or other kinds of taxes. They're getting paid in one way or another, but they've done great marketing around like a tax-free type of state. But in all of the largest 50 metro areas right now, and this isn't, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, renting is cheaper. If you think about it from the perspective of an investment. So imagine that you think you should buy with that $1 million a $500,000 house because everybody says you should. Instead, you keep that $100,000 down payment, right? So that's 20% in the market, and you rent for a few years. If the housing market grows year over year historically, it's 4.5% every year. Yep. That home might gain value. And again, it's all location specific, but the S&P 500, the market has historically grown 7 to 10% year over year. So if you're investing consistently, you could end up with more wealth, more liquidity, more flexibility than if you had locked yourself into that mortgage that you might have outgrown, because the tipping point is at least 5 to 7 years to stay in that home. So if I was telling my little brother, are you sure? Are you going to die in this house in Miami? That's a different conversation than this is the move for the next 5 years or 10 years. Because in that case, really do the math. This is the biggest purchase that most people are going to make in their lives. Running the numbers is critical, and being really honest about what you want from a flexibility standpoint in your location is really, really critical as well. A house doesn't guarantee financial growth. Investing does a lot more of the heavy lifting. So when people say renting is throwing away money, maybe renting is throwing away money without investing. So if you're really disciplined and you rent plus use that money for the down payment, that lump sum to invest in the market, it could be a better financial move. So if your house stops you from investing, that isn't a home. That's a hostage situation, right? You don't want to be house poor. You want to have the flexibility to be able to take advantage of growth that you would get in the stock market that you might not have if you have all of your liquidity tied up in a house, in brick and mortar, especially if your next career move calls.
So let me ask you this question. When it comes to a step-by-step analysis, what are some of the top 3 factors on either side of buying and renting that you would use to analyze what is best for this particular human? And for example, this little brother of yours, from that perspective, to say, all right, I'm going to rent or I'm going to buy, and move forward from there.
So the first thing is how long you're going to stay there. So if you're not staying 7 to 10 years, buying gets really, really expensive. And what people don't factor in is how much you're putting into that house. So you look in the mirror, you're the landlord. When people say renting is throwing away money because you don't get stuff back, you don't get money back. Well, what about all the money that you put in when you bought a house? All of the fixes that you had to do, all the upgrades that you had to do. If the roof broke, if the HVAC system broke, that's all on you. That's money that you're probably not going to get back. Of course, if you made upgrades, perhaps you will. But closing costs, interest that you pay, all this stuff, you're not getting back either. So renting buys you that flexibility. So I'd be really honest and say, like, in the next decade, are we going to be in Miami? 100%. If so, perhaps buying could make sense. Investing builds wealth faster than homes tend to appreciate. So I would ask about the exposure that he had in the market. Is there any exposure? Oftentimes, people invest in home ownership for their primary home because that's forced savings. That's the only exposure to building equity they have. But there's a lot of other places to build equity and to build wealth. And so I would just focus on how long you're going to stay there, your exposure to the market, and understanding the opportunity cost for that money.
Yeah. No, that's spot on. And I agree with a lot of that. And you mentioned where somebody could look at investing and allocating funds to a different space. So I'm going to throw a different scenario at you. You've got your little sister, college star athlete, getting all this NIL dollars, and she has the ability to have liquidity of about 200 grand, let's say, in her bank account at this moment. What are some of the types of investments, products, and stocks and things that you would suggest for her to dip her toes in and even see quality returns or outsized returns from that perspective?
Yeah. So young athletes, as you'll forget more than I will ever know, have a lot of liquidity, but they hesitate to invest because they're new to money. They're new to advisors. They're new to this idea of trusting the market. So the simple rule is invest automatically every month. There are no feelings involved there. You don't need to pick a perfect stock. You just need to have a perfect habit. Your salary made you rich, but your investments keep you rich. So the market rewards time in the game, not timing the game. It's about dollar cost averaging, which is fancy Wall Street terminology for putting money consistently in the market, no matter what is going on. Don't try to time the market. Put your blinders on. So basically, dollar cost averaging means if you said 200K, instead of putting that 200K in the market today, then I would take 50K and put it in this month, put 50K in next month or in 2 weeks, depending on the time horizon. Just break it down so that over time you're getting the average of the price that you bought in at. So we can't predict the market. If I could, you know what? I would be on a beach right now. Nobody can predict the market. And so instead of trying to find the perfect time to buy low and sell high, oftentimes our emotions want us to do the opposite, right? When everything's low, like you want to get out, but that's actually the perfect time to buy. So if you set yourself up with a system and you put it on an automated buy program to dollar cost average, then you miss all of that drama of the market.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on not trying to time the market. But if you happen to see a dip, for example, in the 2008 crash, 2009 side of things, and then also, let's just say even more recently,
hell of a dip.
You've had, yes, it was a dip for sure. And then also look at COVID in 2020 and seeing that dip. Are you saying we're just going to stay with our plan, or are there opportunities that you do say, because I have a secure job, I have liquidity on a consistent basis, I should try and buy that dip? I'm not going to time the dip and catch it at the very bottom, but I see it's going down and it's been going down for 5 consecutive days and whatnot. Do you try and get in at that particular point in time, or you just stick with your plan?
I think if you already have money in the market, if you're already a seasoned enough investor, having some dry powder on the sidelines for those moments could be a great opportunity. I have a bunch of limit orders in my brokerage account. So limit orders compared to market orders when you're going to buy, let's say, an S&P 500 index fund. So that tracks the entire market. It's really, really hard to beat the market. A lot of fund managers try to tell you they can, but traditionally they cannot. So just buy the market. And I have limit orders, which basically says buy VOO or SPY, which are ticker symbols for these S&P 500 index funds, when they hit a certain level. And that's a lower level than they are right now. And that's when that order will execute. A market order just says buy it at whatever price it is right now. So when the market goes down, I mean, obviously I'm checking every day anyway. I can tell because all my limit orders are going through. So I have a bunch in there. If I, missed out on a certain stock or a sector when it was lower, I put it in because that's what markets do. They go up, they go down. And if you wait for the perfect moment to invest, you'll miss all the moments that mattered. And so when you're just starting, staying really disciplined because it can get emotional, and trying to take the emotion out of it by automating it, I think is a more realistic way to go. But for you, who's in the market, you have some dry powder. Take advantage of those dips.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And honestly, when you're talking about these limit orders and whatnot, what type of liquidity should you have sitting on the sides from a percentage basis especially of your overall net worth, for lack of better words?
When we talk about taking riskier bets, I like to keep it to 1% of my net worth. And everybody has a net worth. It's assets minus liabilities is your net worth.
Yeah.
And I think about that for crypto too. So keep crypto to 1% of your net worth, especially if you're just starting out. You can afford to lose 1%. You can't afford to miss out on a growth opportunity if 1% becomes 100%. So I get it. Have a little bit exposure, but don't get crazy.
It's something I was just talking to a friend of mine who was recently on the podcast, Israel Adonijay, and he was like, yeah, man, you can definitely afford 1% of your net worth to get into Bitcoin or these different alternative investments. And it is definitely something that I think people, when they take an outsized look in the big picture, that 1% compared to everything else is really not that big. And it's something that you can risk with. But there's obviously a great reward as well, as if you're disciplined with that. So great advice and something that I need to work on myself as an individual from that perspective.
We all do, but it's a general framework, or you can change it, but it's a good place to start when a lot of this stuff feels overwhelming. It's breaking it down into baby steps and putting some sort of process or system around it makes it feel less overwhelming.
At T. Rowe Price, their experience helps them see investment potential differently. Instead of quick answers, they know that what really leads to confident investing is true curiosity, which is why they ask smart questions, just like us. Like how healthcare innovation creates a healthier world, or how will AI be a part of a new tomorrow? Great questions for a deep dive. At T. Rowe Price, their curiosity runs deep so you can invest more confidently. Better questions, better outcomes. T. Rowe Price. Learn more at troprice.com/curiosity. So being married and having a young daughter, I'm curious to ask you about another scenario when it comes to relationships. And why is it so common? You see a lot of high income relationships struggle and fail to have success within themselves and working together, when it's especially centered around money.
We keep money conversations in relationships to emergency conversations, and they shouldn't be. They should be rituals. So I would encourage everyone to do a quarterly money date with your partner. And it doesn't have to be like a interrogation, right? It's a fun conversation. Have some wine, get sexy about it. It's a conversation about what we're building together. That's sexy.
Yeah.
What do we value? Where do we want stability? Where do we want flexibility? Do we want to buy a home? What's our idea of lifestyle? And they don't have to match exactly, but they should be compatible. And I think money fights are rarely ever about money. They're just about mismatched expectations. And you can get in front of that because a lot of couples I see suffer from financial infidelity, which is just like, relationship, sexual infidelity. It's where you're hiding something about money. Yeah. So hiding debt, hiding,
gambling,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so you can share a life and be on totally different financial paths. If it's secret, that's not okay. If it's out in the open and addressed before its emergency, I think that's good relationship, financial discussion hygiene.
Do you mind sharing how, because I would imagine in your household with your expertise, you're leading the financial conversations with your husband. But how does that work with the dynamic of you guys working together to have that conversation? Because I feel like I'm the leader in my family and my wife, and she loves to be involved in it and understand it, but also is like, she's not as passionate about it as I'm passionate about it. So how did those conversations evolve and grow and lead in your family?
You can have a CEO and a COO in your family C-suite. And if, God forbid, you weren't able to do the financial heavy lifting that you are right now, she would need to step into that role, right? So she would need to know where a lot of this stuff is. And I love that you guys have these conversations, because a lot of couples don't until it's too late. The time where I see from our audience when women want to get their financial lives together is actually out of necessity, if their husband died or if they got divorced. It's really hard to proactively start taking as much of a vested interest. And so before it's too late, I mean, I just went through a crazy, natural disaster, lost everything. And I just say, like, please learn from me. You don't want to have these conversations when it's too late. You want to at least have a sense of where everything is. So my husband and I, we do this regularly. Of course, I'm definitely into it. But he's really involved in his aspect. So we kind of divide and conquer around the types of investments that we do. He really excels at angel investing and being involved in AI investing and different kinds of SPVs, which are, private investments, again, to keep to a small percentage of your overall net worth. But those are more risky investments. And I like to do the boring stuff. Like, I really love boring finance. It's my favorite.
The foundation. Yes.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, keep it so stinking boring. Just give me like low-cost S&P 500 index funds. Give me treasuries all day. You can't have your entire portfolio be just boring stuff. I get it. But like a small percentage of the fun stuff. I used to think, like, have a fun time. Go on a vacation. Go read a magazine. Go on Instagram. Go on TikTok. Go have a fun time somewhere else. Keep your investments so boring. Like, give me a 7 to 10% year-over-year return. Thank you very much. I'm good.
I know you like boring, as you just explained, but with 2026 almost upon us, what are some of the exciting things that you've learned about that you want to get involved with on the sexy side, or that your husband has shared with you?
I do think we would love to just personally take advantage of the growth that we're seeing in the private markets. So a lot of young people complain about the idea, understandably so, that the biggest companies of our time are private companies. So now, big private companies are going not only through Series A, B, C, D, they're like on G and Q, and like it just keeps continuing. The likes of Stripe and OpenAI and XAI and Boring Company. And, I think that the consensus now is that we're not going to have the same opportunity in the public markets as perhaps the generation before us did when Apple went public, right?
Yeah.
I just spoke at a high school of girls, and Apple went public 1980. If I put $100 in Apple when I was their age, so when I was 15 in 1999, it would be, 250 grand right now, just $100. And so a lot of those types of companies right now are staying private for longer or maybe forever. So trying to get some exposure to the private markets is something that I'm excited about for 2026. Personally, there's a lot more opportunity with private equity now becoming more democratized, which is not all rainbows and butterflies. You obviously have to be careful. Like, there's a reason that a lot of these private equity companies want money from 401ks and retail investors, which is just a way to say like regular investors like us versus institutional investors like the big corporations. Yeah. So it's something to be really careful about, because those are the biggest risk.
So with those exciting items, on the flip side of that, what are some of the things that you're looking to avoid that you've seen in the past have had success, but even furthermore that they haven't had success regardless, and you're just saying like people should be aware of these pieces?
lifestyle creep, for sure. So the more money you make, the more money you spend. And sometimes I see people making much more, but actually having their net worth go down because their lifestyle just keeps increasing. So as much as you get a windfall, which could be a raise, could be an inheritance, could be a sale of a car or jewelry or something like that, try to keep your lifestyle the same so that you're investing more. Ultimately, success is not what you make, but it's what you keep that matters the most. And so if you want to feel rich forever, try to stop spending like you're celebrating forever. I think, building wealth with boring decisions now so that future you can live an exciting life.
Yeah, and it's something that people I think struggle with, which is delayed gratification of the principles and foundations that you've built, maintaining that for days, months, years, and then you really get to the end of it or get to a period and point in time in your life where you have more than enough to then where you can really spend and enjoy and it not risk and hurt you from that perspective. I'm curious to, obviously being an amazing author, what are some of your favorite financial resources to listen to and or read when it comes to finances?
I love the Earn Your Leisure podcast. I had those guys on the show. They do a really, really great job. So if you're not listening to them, I would. They just came on the show. They gave me their book, which I would recommend. I would recommend Ray Dalio's book. He also just came on the show. He's kind of scary because he says, like, the whole country's gonna, implode.
Yeah.
So take it with a grain of salt, but he's one of the richest men of our time, greatest investors of our time. And so, hearing all the perspectives, ultimately, we can't control what happens on a macro basis. We can only control ourselves. So whether he's right and like debt's going to go out of control and, we're all screwed, or if tariffs are going to go crazy, or if inflation's going to go crazy, like there's so much fear out there because access to information is so much quicker. But the truth is, like, none of that stuff we can control. Zero. Yeah. We can only control ourselves and our own micro economies. So our own family economies. That's it. Like the only things that we can control, 3 to 6 months of emergency savings in the bank, automate investments. These are the things that are within our control. These black swan events, like stuff that no one would ever expect. So 9/11 or the 2008 housing crisis. These are things that, were not even on the radar. Tariffs this year weren't really on the radar either.
Yeah.
So that stuff is outside of our power. I would focus on the things that are within our power. And you're never as young as you are today. So when people tell me I'm too old to start investing, it's like, well, you're never as young or you're never as hot as you are today. So start now.
For sure. No. And it's very interesting that you say that. Control the controllables. And it's something in sports that you have to learn very, very quickly. And it's in life, it's very important as well. So this has been obviously an amazing conversation, but I'd be remiss to let you go without asking you my favorite question. And that is, in your life or in your career, what is the biggest price you've had to pay for a breakthrough?
Oof. Well, this year, what was the price? Couple $1,000,000. Losing my entire home, my office, my everything in the LA wildfires. It forced me to live my own advice, I think, in real time. It was the moment that I realized that every breakthrough in money is also a breakthrough in resilience. And I think that if you have practiced resilience, you can manage money well. And if you manage money well, you can practice resilience, because both are predicated on the idea of discipline and this strong belief that tomorrow is worth it.
Yeah.
So there is no free lunch. You pay for every breakthrough, for sure. The price for me this year was losing everything. The breakthrough was realizing that I could start again, stronger. I paid in fear and I paid in heartbreak, but I think I came out in fire, with fire, from the fire. And that was my breakthrough, that if I could get through losing literally everything I ever owned, I truly could do anything. And my God, do I wish I had more stocks than stuff.
So Nicole, if you don't mind sharing, I would love for my audience and community to understand how they can learn from you on a consistent basis and how to do so.
Thank you. Money Rehab, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. It's a daily show that helps you take control of your money and breaks down what's happening in the financial world. Money Rehab, wherever you get your podcasts. And find me at Nicole Lapin, wherever you get your social media.
Congrats on your success to date. And obviously you're a very strong woman and have an ability to be very resilient, as you said. So Nicole, thank you very much for joining No Free Lunch. It's been an amazing conversation and look forward to staying connected.
Love that. Thank you.
It's time for the Confidently Curious Question, where we ask questions that are one step ahead. Sponsored by T. Rowe Price, where they believe that asking better questions can lead to better outcomes. My Confidently Curious question of the day is, what do you call a tax on imported goods that is typically paid by the company importing them? Ooh, if you don't know this question in this day and age, you in trouble. A, global entry. I love that. B, tariffs. C, export fees. The answer is B, tariffs. If you didn't know the answer was B, you have to be living under a rock in this world. The way Donald Trump and all of the other countries in this world have been going back and forth about tariffs, it is as simple as the iPhone. Apple has to deal with these tariffs and address them to either pass them along to the patrons or they're going to absorb them as a company to benefit in keeping prices down so their phones are somewhat affordable. That's our Confidently Curious question for the week. Thanks to our sponsor, T. Rowe Price, for modeling the power of better questions. T. Rowe Price proudly sponsors No Free Lunch. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the podcast participants and do not necessarily reflect those of T. Rowe Price. Their sponsorship supports the platform and does not imply endorsement of specific content or perspectives. What a great conversation with Nicole. I will say what I really enjoyed the most and learned from that conversation was simply this. Keep it simple, straightforward, boring, and obviously go through an analysis of what's best for you in your life and find those different pieces that make sense. Against renting or buying a home, for example, or investing in certain items that you believe in and you see the growth in. So I love that conversation, and I think some great basic tools for individuals to learn from. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to No Free Lunch on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.